Salvation Army co-founder Catherine Booth said, if we are to better the future, we must disturb the present. This is the Disturbance Podcast from Salvation Army Women's Ministries. Welcome to the Disturbance Podcast. Today is a bit of a follow-up from our 10 Days of Body Kindness series that you might have seen if you follow our social media. We are going to be talking today, and I'm really excited about this, to the irrepressible Victoria Martin-Gardner, who's a personal stylist, which you just need to take one look at this gorgeous woman to know that. But we're going to talk about a lot more than clothes. We're going to be talking about body image. We're going to be delving into eating disorders, shame, and redemption. And of course, we'll be talking about clothes, one of my favorite topics. But Victoria, to know you is to know that you have a gift to give the world through your creativity, and your own personal style is a real extension of that gift. And you're also someone who's like passionate about and authentic. You're a woman of faith, and you're someone who's always had a heart to see other women shine as well. So I'm really excited to have you on here, Victoria. So let's just get into it. Tell me about how you got into styling, and it was a bit of a spiritual journey for you, wasn't it?
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me here all the way from sunny Melbourne today. It's been a really long journey, and I'd pretty much sort of given up on finding that sort of niche of who I was and what I was about in my professional life. I had tried so many different jobs and roles and jumped all around. But my husband and I, he was having his midlife crisis, so we went and down tools and went around Asia for 5 months and just really had a break from everyday life. And when we got back, I started journaling through a book called The Artist's Way. So if there's any creative people out there who feel really stuck, it's an amazing book to start working through. And as part of that book, you'd have some exercises to do, and it would guide you to think about, well, what am I passionate about? What's something that I could look to do? So as I went through that, I somehow sort of thought about personal styling. And before I knew it, I was enrolled in a course here in Melbourne, went the first day and just went, oh my gosh, this is what I've been created for.
Wow.
So that was, it took me till I was 45 years of age. So if there's other people out there thinking, oh my gosh, am I ever going to find it? It does come. Sometimes
for a midlife crisis, eh?
Yeah.
Hey, tell me, when we did our pre-chat, you told me that you had prophecies about this when you were young.
One of the prophecies I had was something like this. This is me paraphrasing. I see you in a place like a shop where people are going to come to you to seek beauty, and you're going to be able to speak the love of God into them because of the pain and stuff that you've been through. And ever since I had that word, I've sort of been trying to make it happen. But it just never really happened. And so basically I came to a point where felt like I was giving it away, and then it came back. So
yeah. Hey, so tell me, when women come to you, I mean, you've done a lot of things. You've done, costume design and all sorts of things as part of your role, but a lot of it is actually women coming to you wanting help. What situation are they, and why are they coming to you?
So generally the market of women that I work with are mums, and they are getting back into the workforce, or they're in the workforce, and we've had major lockdowns over here in Melbourne. So, after you've had children, and if you've been out of work for a while, your body changes, you're getting older. So it's women who feel like they've lost their way. They don't know what to wear. They don't know what their style is. They've got a wardrobe full of clothes, but, every day is like a chore. So, it's people wanting to invest in themselves because they know that they can save time and save money in the long run. Absolutely. And just really wanting to feel better about who they are and the body that they're in.
I mean, I think you bring up a really important point here about changing bodies. I know that me now at 49, I've noticed a huge change just in the last year. And it's a real struggle. I mean, I've got a lot of skills over the years for self-talk, but just seeing your body change can be really disillusioning. How do you work with women to help them come to terms with that and accept it as part of the natural life cycle of being human?
It's a journey. It's a journey for all of us, and it's not going to happen overnight, but there's a lot of strategies that we can use through styling. One of the strategies we use is called a mirror strategy, and basically that's me trying to learn how my client views their body.
Wow.
So we all have beliefs about ourselves and areas on our body that we think, oh, it's not like it used to be, or it's not like I want it to be. And by doing this mirror strategy, we hone on the areas of the body that the person is conscious of.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we go out to style, it's taking note of those areas, but the end of the process is the invitation for them to learn how I see them as a professional through a different eye.
Yeah.
So to try and break some of those self-talk and some of those stories that they've carried.
Yes. So take me through what you might do. What kind of questions do you ask to get people thinking about these things?
The woman stands in front of the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of women do not take the time to stand in front of a mirror. Some of my clients don't even own a mirror.
It's actually an unbearable feeling for a lot of women.
Yes. So even to get them to stand still in front of a mirror can be a major challenge.
That's confronting.
For some women it is. And then the questioning becomes, when you look in the mirror, what's the first thing you look at? Some people can't answer it. Yeah. So the question's repeated until they can say, and they're often fighting voices in their head, you know, what's the right answer? What am I supposed to be looking at? But when they come from authenticity, I'm looking at my tummy.
Yes.
Okay. And then, so my role is a non-emotional observer. So,
amazing.
Okay. So you're looking at your tummy. What are you looking at next? I'm looking at my thighs. Okay. So tell me the first thing that you're looking at. I'm looking at my tummy. What are you looking at your tummy? I'm looking at my stretch marks and how it's rolly and how I want to wear crop tops, but I can't. Okay, great. Tell me, what was the second thing? So it's learning how the client views themselves. Because on the flip side, this could be a client who's lost a dramatic amount of weight and they're really happy with their stomach.
Right.
I'm looking at my stomach because, you know, I've done work or it's my body's changed and I like the way it's changed. So we can't assume as a stylist that the beliefs that we have, other people have.
But do you find that it's more often that people are looking at the negative parts of themselves?
Oh, absolutely. I've yet to have a client who was like, oh yeah.
Wouldn't that be amazing if we did that when we looked in the mirror? I mean, probably one, they wouldn't be coming to you for help if they did that. But two, I relate to this because, I mean, totally oversharing so early on into the chat, but when I was younger, I had exactly the same relationship with the mirror. I couldn't look in the mirror. And when I did look in the mirror, I felt like I needed to say to myself, you're disgusting. I thought that was what would motivate me to try and stick to whatever diet I was on or whatever. And when I started a healing journey from what I saw in the mirror, the first thing that I tried to do, and this was something that no one told me to do. I felt God tell me to do this. It was a voice in my head telling me, you need to look at yourself and say that you're beautiful. And it literally took me 6 months to be able to just mumble that to myself with no one around in front of the mirror. And the other thing that I had to really learn is try to look at yourself holistically and not hone in on those parts that you don't like. So Vic, when you look in the mirror with a woman, what do you see as opposed to what they see?
So I see beauty in so many different ways. I see incredible women who've got amazing hearts. They're doing incredible things with their family and in their lives. It's so much more than the size of their bottom or the number of the tag in the back of them. There's just, like, if I'm saying in feedback, can I tell you what I see? You've got gorgeous proportions. Your shoulders and your hips are amazing. We've got lots of real estate or area we can work with accessorizing, with belts and things. Look at the way that your hands and your wrists are so, fine and beautiful, and we can really play with that. And then it's like, oh, we're going to have so much fun. Let's go. So it's kind of getting in there, recognizing, affirming that you've heard them, that you are aware of the areas of their body that they feel uncomfortable with, affirming, I've heard that, I see you, this is what I see, now let's go and have some fun.
You've got a huge place to play in truth-telling, don't you? Because I think we bought into this huge cultural lie that there's only one type of body that's valid and okay, and there's only one type of beauty that's valid and okay. And it just so happens that it's the beauty that very few of us can ever attain. It's the body that very few of us can ever attain. And so we have bought into this huge cultural lie that that diversity is not okay. And yet, one of the things that's been really revelationary to me, and you mentioned about seeing beauty in lots of different ways, is that when I looked at myself as part of God's creation, I looked at creation, I was like, the reason why creation is so awe-inspiring is because it's so diverse. There's not a leaf that's the same as another leaf. And yet we look at each other and we are trying to all fit ourselves into this tiny box that we can't fit in because we were made to be unique, individual, and diverse. And it's just a lie that we're kind of burdened with.
It's crazy. There's just so much rolling around in my head about, the diet industry, about when scales were invented, about cellulite is now a market that wasn't even a thing back until the 1930s, 1940s in France. Like, they made it up because women came out of the war with income and independence. Let's make a female problem so we can make money from that.
I mean, it's the oldest marketing trip in the book,
Yeah, and we all fall for it.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I actually laughed out loud the other day because I saw this thing on Instagram saying, do you have an ugly neck bump? And it was like this, this kind of bump in your neck. And I'm like, oh my goodness, they found another way to make people feel bad about themselves so that you can go and spend money on not having an ugly back of your neck bump. And I'm just like, it's so sick, the different ways that we're made to feel bad about ourselves.
Yeah.
To the point where
you never even knew it was a thing until someone said it was a thing.
No. And sort of like, when did pores become so evil? Like, now you've got to have no pores. And, it's just, they're finding new ways to make us feel insecure. And it all sounds very conspiratorial, but I have done some reading about it that, the diet industry was basically invented, like you said, with regards to cellulite, because marketers realized that it's the one thing women will never be able to attain is the really thin body. So if we keep them wanting to attain that, then they'll keep spending money.
It's billions and billions of dollars. Basically, if we spent what we spent on diets per year in the billions, we could cure world poverty and feed people for that year.
Oh my gosh, that makes me so sad.
It's disgusting.
It actually makes me.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. And it's not, women are not to blame. We're just doing what we've been told to do, right? Like, it's not you and me going on a diet that are to blame, because we're just actually doing what every image we have, every piece of information that we're given on a daily basis is telling us we should do. It's the $1 billion industry. But the thing is, the $1 billion industry won't change. So we actually need to do the hard work of standing up against it on a daily basis, don't we?
Yeah. We just want to be loved and valued. And
that's right.
That's the lie that the diet industry feeds us.
Absolutely.
If you look like this, you will be loved and valued.
Totally.
And it's a bit about the ego too. Like, if I look like that, then my life will be perfect and I'll have no worries. Like,
and who wants to live like that anyway? Because it's so unauthentic. Like, I don't want anyone to look at me and think that I'm perfect. You look on Instagram, and like, I often call the whole like Hollywood beauty standard a beautiful illusion, because when you look at those images, your brain is telling you this is what happiness and health is, and this is what success, and this person must be loved, because ultimately, like you just said, that's our deepest desire, right? To be loved. But that's like, it's a very thin facade that you don't have to scratch very far to see that it's just a massive lie. Like, when your eyes are open to it. For example, I'll give you an example. And this, David Beckham the other day was, kind of went a bit viral because he was being interviewed, and he said his wife, Victoria Beckham, had lived on steamed fish and vegetables for 20 years. And that's just kind of so normalized and laughed at. But for me, as someone who's been through that myself, I was like, well, that's an eating disorder. And that's no way to live. That is actually not, that's not happiness. Yet she's held up as a fashion guru, a fashion icon, the epitome of healthiness. And, it's just the skinnier the better, isn't it?
Yeah, although the skinnier is not the better.
No, it's not. Tell me about your own personal journey with body image.
My personal journey. So I come from disordered eating, and bulimia was my thing, my go-to. So this was all in high school, and people don't really sort of dive too deeply into what it's like actually forcing food to come back up that's gone down your body. So the torment on not only your brain is there, but it's also your body. So for me, I had other things going on, but it manifested in eating disorders. And then the belief was that if I could get to a certain size, then I guess I'd be loved or accepted, or I don't know, a better Christian, or whatever it was that I thought. So after I'd not eat, and then there's a point where your body goes, oh, I'm actually really hungry. And so I would, quote unquote, give in. And then I would eat, but I would eat like a crazy person. I'd stand in front of the pantry and just scan the shelves, shoveling food in, almost like a trance, I guess.
Or at that stage, your body is needing food, right?
Yeah. So at the end of the trance, it was like, oh my gosh, what have I done? What have I done? What have I done?
Shame.
And then, shame, massive shame. And then it was a rush for me. I would go to the shower. So I would be in the shower, and then, like fingers down the throat. So the long-term thing is like your knuckles are always pierced by your teeth. The enamel of your teeth starts to sort of come away and rot. Blood noses all the time, because you're forcing things backwards, and then there's the physical torture of pinching and punching yourself because, the food won't come out, or so that was my experience. And shame was just massive. And then it would be repentance. God help me, God help me, I don't want to do it again. And then the same cycle would happen. So it was not good. So by the time I was leaving school and going off to university, I'd had enough. I came to a point where I was like, I cannot live like this anymore. The physical and emotional torture is just terrible. So I ended up having some one-on-one counseling with this amazing woman, and she was in the church, and she just loved me and listened to me. And just through her acceptance of me and my behaviors, because it doesn't change overnight.
No.
Gradually, I had to choose, do I want this life or do I want a life of God and healing?
Yes.
And I chose the latter, even though it was really scary to let go of this ideal of being, a teeny tiny human.
So tell me about that process of choosing healing. What did that mean in a practical sense for you?
So for me, initially, I stopped going to the gym. I couldn't be around gym bodies. That was one of my sort of, bread and butter things.
Points of comparison.
Yeah. I couldn't look at fashion magazines. We didn't have the internet like it was now. So, if it was now, I wouldn't be on Instagram or Facebook or anything like that. I moved off to university. So I guess my friend group changed quite a bit. And I had to learn to eat like, quote unquote, a normal person. So I was in a hostel situation for living. So it was probably a really good thing that there was 3 meals a day.
Yes.
They served you the portions. This is what's normal. This is what, it takes to keep a human alive. So that was the first sort of relearning or retraining that I went through.
Yeah. How was it for you when your body started to find its natural weight? And I'm assuming that you might have put on some weight. How was that experience for you?
It was terrifying and triggering, because I thought I'd worked so hard to become whatever size, and then I was undoing all of that work. So it was really trying to remember the reason I was doing it was for, health and well-being and wholeness, not for vanity.
And
so
one of the hard things is that if you do manage to attain that quote unquote perfect body, that you do get lots of external validation for it. So then it becomes even more terrifying to give that up. But it's kind of like, while you were describing that, I was just thinking it's like finding the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow and looking in and realizing it's just full of rubbish and rot. It's not what you think it is. It doesn't give you it doesn't bring happiness or love into your life any more than, that's not the path to peace and joy.
But it's always changing as well. So if you think of the pot at the end of the rainbow,
change.
You think you're there, but oh no, the sunlight's changed and the pot is somewhere else now. There's always more. So there's some women I've worked with and I look at them and think, wow, you're just incredible. You've got no challenges. And then we do the mirror strategy and I'm like, what? Really? What? You think you need to wear Spanx because you've gone from a size 6 to a size 8? Okay. No judgment at this end because we all have voices and stuff. But I'm like, wow. And that's when I think this is really messed up.
Absolutely. And it just shows how much it's a mental, emotional and spiritual issue, not a physical issue,
Correct. Yeah.
And speaking of, I guess, spiritual, I'd love to just get into some of the more spiritual aspects of your thoughts about body image. I'll share with you a little bit of my story as you've shared some of your story, Vic, and I really appreciated your openness and honesty in sharing that. And I feel so much joy for you for how far you've come. And as you'll know it's a lifelong journey, but it's just so wonderful to hear your own story. For me, I think coming out of a disordered relationship with food, I would say probably not a diagnosable eating disorder, was just such a spiritual journey, because I think, I would be bold enough to say that I think every woman in our culture probably has some kind of disordered relationship with food or their body in some way, because every single woman in our culture is scrutinized for her body. For me, I had this, I was just a yo-yo dieter. But like I sort of mentioned earlier, I thought that you had to hate your body in order to keep yourself on the straight and narrow. And so that's why I would kind of look in the mirror and be like, you're disgusting. And then one day, it just, like you, I had my rock bottom moment, and I just said, God, I can't carry on with this level of self-loathing. It's actually it leads to mental health issues, all sorts of mental health issues, depression, anxiety, and, it is a severe rejection of self. And really, it felt like when I lay on the floor and I said, no matter what happens, God, I need you to give me something else, and I'll do whatever you tell me. And it did. It feels like you're staring off a cliff, waiting to jump off and not knowing where you're going to land. And the fear, it's ridiculous, because the worst thing that could happen is that you put on some weight. But it's this huge fear, and that's the eating disorder mindset, isn't it?
The tag in your pants might change.
That's
the pants don't care.
Pants don't care. God doesn't care. But that's a real kind of almost an idol in our culture, isn't it? That we don't, our body size doesn't change. And it's just such a false belief too, because we're meant to become mothers. And I feel that there's this really tragic thing when young mums feel like they need to have the body that they had before they had children, because it's, you're a different person now. You've given life to someone else. And even if you don't have children, you're still aging. It's such a tragedy to have this lie that we need to stay the same, and we need to sort of stunt our own personal and emotional growth by stunting our body, But anyway, I'm totally diverging here. What I was saying was that, I felt that the road to skinniness, i.e. happiness, was to hate myself into it. But the first thing that I felt the Holy Spirit whisper into my ears, that you need to start loving yourself. And I said about that, so looking into the mirror and saying, you're beautiful. It was the absolute opposite. It was the voice of kindness and the voice of compassion that took me into healing. And it was actually the voice of love. And in a way, it's like what your body does doesn't actually matter, because you've gained what you wanted. You wanted to be loved, and you discovered that you have been loved all along. Tell me about like your spiritual perspective on the way we view our bodies.
Well, we all have these tapes in our head, and they come from our family of origin, they come from our church, they come from our friends at school, they come from the media, they come from all different areas. So there's the verses about, renewing your mind, your mind. So that's sort of one part. And that's hard. It doesn't just happen overnight. And you can think, oh, woohoo, I've got this whole thing sorted, and then time to renew your mind again. But also at the beginning of time, Adam and Eve were just hanging out in the garden. But once they ate from the tree of life, suddenly they knew they were naked. And there was shame that came with knowing they were naked. So there was a awareness that came.
That's a profound insight, Vic, that the first thing that happened was they became ashamed, and they became conscious of their bodies. And like nakedness, what a metaphor for vulnerability before God, right? And they tried to hide. That's so profound. Yeah.
So, it wasn't a physical state, but it would also be a spiritual and an emotional state. They were like, whoa, what have we done? Yeah, let's hide.
And then it's sort of, ever since then, it's like we've been trying to hide. We've been trying to hide who we really are, hide our bodies, hide through fashion. I mean, we'll circle back to that,
Definitely.
So much of fashion rules are like shame-based, but before we circle back to that, I wanted to mention also that I think just with you saying about how at the fall came shame, I also found that my own journey to redemption in my body was very spiritual and through Christ, and that we can also be like our bodies can be redeemed, our attitude to our bodies can be redeemed through Christ, and one of the really kind of important verses to me when I was going through a huge amount of healing was this verse in Colossians 2:20 that says, since you died with Christ, why, as though you still belong to the world, do you submit to its rules? Do not handle, do not taste, do not touch. These rules are merely based on human commands and teachings. And that was like, obviously, in the context of when it was written, they were likely talking about food sacrifice to idols and so forth. But it's exactly like diet culture now. It has the appearance of wisdom. Do not handle, do not taste, do not touch. But actually, the answer is that we've died with Christ. And that's freedom. I mean, freedom. That is freedom. Freedom to love ourselves and freedom to be free of these like rules and regulations that really we're just trying to run around trying to be loved.
Yeah. There's this really cool quote that I reposted on my Instagram. I haven't got who wrote it, but it says, there's more to life than dieting and paying bills.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Hello.
I had a moment. So like as you'll know, Vic, and you might be able to tell me a bit more about your own story here, but when you have had a disordered relationship with food, it's a lifelong journey. So I've had times where I was free and then I went through a really hard time and I decided that the answer was to go to the gym twice a day, and I just enslaved myself again. And at that time in my life, I remember like walking past my reflection in a mirror, like in a car window or something. And I just suddenly had this moment where I was like, you know what? Unless I decide to change now, I'm going to be 80. And what I'll have to show for my life is that I dieted and stayed slim. And I'm like, wow, wouldn't the enemy have a like field day with that? That's what I chose to spend my life doing. And it was just this moment of revelation that if I want to be a woman of purpose and a woman who is fulfilling God's glory in my own life, I have to start becoming that person now. It's just not automatically going to happen. I have to start pursuing that as a goal in my life.
Yeah.
And I mean, I like, this is all why I see the work that you do with women as such a like redemptive process that you take them through, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible. So it's not, I mean, it's more than the body and it's more than clothes. It's working on some deep things that they've never thought about, never questioned, but also it's a time-saving device. In our wardrobes that we've got, we wear 20% of our clothes 80% of the time. So you're looking there, staring in this closet full of clothing and you've got nothing to wear.
Yeah.
How cool is it to go, okay, I'm going to go through and take out all those things that are not fit for purpose.
Yes.
So things that are broken, things that don't fit, things that are just like that you wear it and you just feel like, it's just not right. Yeah. And then come back with a curated wardrobe and you can just go, yep, Monday wearing that, Tuesday wearing that. Like that's so much time that you would save and you can put it on.
Mental freedom, right?
Yep. Put it on, feel good, look good, off. That's the last time you have to worry about your clothing.
Wonderful.
For that day.
And, like I found that clothes do such a good job of condemning you from the wardrobe, right? My pair of jeans that are no longer fit, like get them out of my wardrobe and then they get out of my head.
Yep.
Hey, tell me, a question I had for you is like, does everyone have personal style? I'm just aware that not everyone listening to this podcast is going to consider themselves a fashionista. Is style important for everyone?
So whether or not you think you've got style or you think you don't have style, we all show up in the world wearing clothes.
Mm.
And those clothes...
Or you'll be arrested.
Yes, yeah. That's a different podcast. So the fact that you think you have no style, it's still style, if that makes sense. So
absolutely.
We're all telling the world something about the way we show up.
Mm-hmm.
There's been studies done. There's one called Enclothed Cognition, wow. And that study was about the power of clothes. So if you look at a pair of pants, intrinsically they don't have any power. But when you put on that pair of pants, the values you have and the values you have on that piece of clothing gives you the power. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So if I put on a pair of tracksuit pants, for me, the value I personally place in a pair of tracksuit pants is not a lot. I'm not going to feel powerful and great and ready to face the world. But if those tracksuit pants had a Dior label in them, I'd be like, oh, these tracksuit pants make me feel really fancy and I can go really fast today. And don't you know,
point.
Dior tracksuit pants.
So interesting, because my son is 9 and he's just getting to that age where he's becoming aware of labels, and he really wanted these brand named shoes, and I'm having talks to him about, like, because it's got a label doesn't make it any better than this other shoe, and also talking to him about, okay, well, I don't mind paying a bit more if it's more ethically made, but we need to think about that when we're buying clothes. And but he's saying all those things like, when I wear these shoes, I'm a better skater. Yeah. And, that's all that signaling.
Changes your physiology and the way you think about yourself. So if in fact you believe they're going to make you faster, they will actually make you faster.
It's so fascinating, isn't it?
It's, like, there's so much more than just clothing.
Yes. So
it's incredible.
So tell me, if I can reflect back to what you're saying, are you saying that, so when you wear clothes that make you feel like you're really yourself, then that's like quite an important part of facing the world as yourself?
Absolutely. You feel yourself, you're authentic, off you go. That's the last time you have to think about, oh my goodness, am I dressed appropriately? Oh, this is a bit tight. Oh my goodness. Just some days you turn up and you're like, oh, I just feel in what I'm wearing. And then you're conscious about what you're wearing rather than focusing on the task that you've got to do for that day and being who you need to be.
So, let's talk a bit about fashion rules, because how do we get away from being women who wear black sacks? Because we are just, we've been taught so many fashion rules that are actually about hiding who we are rather than celebrating who we are. So kind of every year that goes past, I'll have this little light bulb moment where I'm like, oh, who told me I couldn't wear that? Who told me I couldn't wear shorts, or I couldn't tuck my shirt in, or I couldn't wear horizontal lines, or, and I realized how much of my internalized talk is actually about trying to hide my body. And that's why all of us mums end up walking around in black shapeless dresses, right? Because we just have lost any joy in clothes. So how do we get back to a place where we can really celebrate who we are through our own style?
So black shapeless dresses are actually very comfortable. I do have to say that.
There's a place
Comfort
for them.
Is,
and especially if you've got some on-point earrings to go with them. But
Yes. With COVID, our bodies have changed and the way that we dress changes again as well. So, mixing and matching things from the corporate world with things from the sporting world, we never did that before. Like you never wore a suit with sneakers, but it's such a cool look. So how can we go against the fashion rules? Well, I don't think it's about going for or against fashion rules. I think it's about finding out who you are and evolving. Like it's a process and having fun. Like, why can't you go into a shop and pick out 5 things you've never tried on before and take them into the changing room, have a good old laugh? Some things will look amazing. Some things won't. Like,
yes, I love that idea. And take
Clothing
a friend with you.
Care.
Take a friend with you who can tell you look
care
amazing.
if you
Yeah.
if you put it back on the rack, they don't care. Clothing is
No.
like, oh yeah, there's someone
I love
else.
that. It's just like food. It does not have a moral value. It only has the morality that we attribute to it, right?
Yeah.
So like you said before about the size, the tag on the back, there's no moral value to that apart from what we've attributed to it.
Exactly right. And like, is a number going to ruin your day? Like I've spent years where numbers ruin my days. The number on the scale, the number in my pair of pants. Nobody else gives a rat.
No.
They really don't.
I honestly find that so helpful to say that to myself, that like literally no one else in the world cares that I've put on 5 kilos except for me. And
they probably didn't even notice.
Exactly. And like, it sounds kind of mean to myself, but it's actually like a self-compassionate thing to say, because what I'm saying is it's the least important thing about me, so much so that no one else would even notice. And yet why am I beating myself up about this, Yeah.
Some people would love to put on 5 kilos as well, like not everybody struggles with the weight up. Some people are very petite and then get the judgment of, oh, you're so skinny, you mustn't eat. So, there's acceptance for all body types. But we place judgment and value on what we think.
Absolutely.
So just a little side note there.
Yes, absolutely. That just kind of brought me to mind. Tell me about your work with Groom to Go.
I work with a company over here called Groom to Go. They're a voluntary agency and they're affiliated with Dress for Success. So basically the role that I have there when I go in is dressing people to get back into the workforce. So the clients we work with could have come from homelessness. They could still be homeless, domestic violence, refugees, people who've been unemployed, basically anyone wanting to get into some clothing to help them get back into the working arena again. Yeah, it's amazing.
That sounds incredible. So what kind of change have you seen in women through that work?
Oh, it's incredible. So there was one gorgeous client that I met up with just before Christmas. And so through the process of dressing someone, I mean, it's quite an intimate sort of thing to do. And it's something that, the person has to be open to being vulnerable about. So often during the process, you learn a lot about that person. And this woman started to tell me her story, and she was a nurse and she lived in Sydney and she lived in an average suburb, had the average working day, rented, And then she met who she believed was her Prince Charming. Little did she know Prince Charming was addicted to some heavy drugs. And soon she became addicted to the same drugs and her life began to unravel to the point where she was put in jail on drug charges. So when I met her, she had done her time. She had retrained in information technology. She had moved down from Sydney to Melbourne, so she was living in backpackers. And she needed clothing to be able to show up for job interviews and to also show up for interviews for apartments. So when we were able to put her in some really cool clothes, so that all the clothing's donated as well, she ended up in this gorgeous leather skirt, which was, lovely pencil one, and a beautiful tailored jacket with this soft chiffon blush pink shirt underneath, and then some cute pink stilettos to go with the blush top. And there was a few other little, bits and bobs. We try and do about a week's worth of clothing.
Oh, wow.
And she just looked amazing. And so, everybody's body language changes when they start feeling it and seeing how amazing they can look. Imagine comparing that to a prison uniform.
Oh gosh, that's redemptive in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, like in prison, you're just one of many. You've got no options. You've got no individuality. And then to come out and be able to rock this gorgeous chiffon blouse and these hot pink shoes, it's just Like, how fun is that? And she's going to be feeling so good.
Oh, and I just love hearing you describe it. It's so cool. But like that is just, I just said it before, but I feel like I have to say it again. That's just such a redemptive process. And you've gone from something that was very dehumanizing to making them fully themselves and fully human again, which I just think is really beautiful.
Yeah.
Hey, just
so
for fun.
She was amazing.
Yes. I just love that you're doing that work, Vic. That's just beautiful. And it made me think of the prophecy again that you said right at the beginning. This is in fruition, as well as the women clients that you work with. Also, that is that prophecy coming to fruition. I just think that's really beautiful. Hey, just for fun, can we just talk about our own personal style, hot fashion tips? How do we find our own personal style?
Okay, so we have some exercises that you do where you look at images and you pretty much kind of rate them.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people, so some people would never have thought about this before, and some people will know instinctively what their style is. So it requires a bit of work.
Yeah.
I would say, like, if you get some magazines or go through your own clothing in your wardrobe or go out to a shop, start looking at the things that you're pulling out. And you'll start to see patterns, because we all have this thing called a reticular activated system.
Oh,
and basically, the world is so complicated and there's so much information coming in, right? So this is a mechanism that we use to help protect us, and we actually take it into our clothing world. So, for example, if you love denim, you're going to go into a shop and there might be 500 garments there, but you're going to find the one pair of denim short or pants in there that is in your reticular activated system. You're going to block everything else.
Yes.
You're going to find that one pair and you're going to be like, oh, I love these, but they're different to the ones I've got because they've got a rip on the left knee instead of the right knee, right? So it's about recognizing that you're always going for the same clothing.
Yes.
Purposely going out.
Yes.
And trying something different.
Good. I love that.
Yeah. So you'll start to see, oh, okay, well, I'm really attracted to a lot of chiffon things. So I would say my style is feminine. And you can attribute whatever language to it that you like.
Right. Yes.
Or if you put on your favorite thing and you go, oh, what is this? So for me, I like a masculine and feminine twist.
Oh, I love that.
If that makes sense. So it might be something like a really girly dress with a tie.
Nice.
Or something chiffon with brogue shoes or sneakers. So it's that male, female sort of androgynous twist. Whereas someone that's classic might always be, I just love a blazer. So they wear their blazer with their stilettos. They wear their blazer with their running shoes. They wear a blazer with their strappy little stilettos. So it's like, oh, classic. And even when they're in their jeans, they're tailored, fitted jeans.
Yes,
because they're classic.
It's kind of just finding your joy, right? So that you because there's when you're talking about what we hone in on in the shops, some of that would also be just what our comfort zone is, right? So
yes, which is your reticular activated system.
It
works for you. Yes. You know it's worked for you. You've got a connection to it. Right. And it might be something that you're still buying for like the last 10 years because you went to a prom in 1981 and you were like felt the best you ever did. So you're always going to go for that same style of prom dress.
Yes. Is this why some of us just still wear blue eyeliner, like there's a time where you just felt so good and you're never going to change that.
Yes, absolutely. It's comfortable for you. So it's uncomfortable to step into an area or into clothing that you're not sure about. Like, again, what's the worst thing that happens? Someone goes, oh, you look funny today. And you go, thank you.
Yeah.
So what? I looked funny. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I was just trying it out.
Much. Oh my gosh, that so reminds me of so many of the things that I've been doing in the last couple of years because I really challenged myself to like we were saying before, break some of these fashion rules. And, like the tucking my shirt in was a massive thing for me because I've always been ashamed of my tummy. And just realizing like, so what if someone can see my tummy bump? Like, so what? It's there. It exists. Who cares if people see it? So, hey, let's just finish. I've loved talking to you, Vic. Can we finish with you giving us a hot fashion take? What's your hot tip for us?
Okay, so there's a lot going on out there. Think of the early 2000s and then dig that out of your wardrobe and put it back on, basically. So low-rise jeans are coming back. Not good for me and my mum tum. I won't be revisiting that. No.
Or the crop tops. Let's not revisit the early 2000s.
No, I'm not doing the crop tops. The only way I could do a crop top, and this is something I'll do with my clients, is if you're layering it over something, so if you've got a beautiful crisp white shirt and you wear a little bustier and then the matching bustier skirt or pant, like that's beautiful for someone who's 50. There's a bit of neon green coming back through
neon green. Like that.
Oversized jackets, basically.
Oh, really?
Yep. Big masculine shoulder pads.
The shoulder pads are back. Yes.
Shoulder pads are back.
Been far too long, shoulder pads. It's been far too long.
Yeah. Puff sleeves, obviously, they're still going strong, but they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes. Yeah. Starting to look a little bit ridiculous, but we don't care. It's all about having fun, right? Yeah.
Yes. If that's not fun for you, don't wear it.
Yes. My top tip is bike shorts under dresses. That's God's gift to you. And I just think we should all wear more tutus.
So cute with high top sneakers.
Yes. I could talk to you about fashion for so long, but I know it's not everyone's bag. And we've talked about so much more than fashion. We've talked about body shame, and we've talked about redemption, and we've talked about loving ourselves. I would just like to finish off with this thought that instead of normalizing looking in the mirror and seeing what we don't like, can we start as a godly act of kindness towards ourselves, looking in the mirror and start normalizing opening our eyes to what we do like about our bodies, because that's actually redemption. God is our creator. God made us, and we actually honor him when we honor our bodies. Victoria, it's been just so wonderful talking to you. Bless you for the amazing work you do and redeeming women and their relationships with their bodies, with Groom to Go. And just for being you, I would really implore anyone to go onto Vic's website and just see what her amazing style is like, because she's gorgeous inside and out. Vic, it's been an absolute joy talking to you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me all the way from Melbourne.